night wind drifts across a wide Icelandic plain, and even the grass seems to move slowly, as if it's remembering how to be still. Somewhere beyond the darkness, water keeps its quiet promise, soft, steady, unbothered. Fog hangs low like a sleepy scarf, and the ground holds old warmth beneath a thin skin of cold, the way a kettle stays comforting long after the flame is gone. In Iceland, the landscape feels like a gentle conversation between opposites, fire and ice, resting side by side without any argument at all. Glaciers lie like folded blankets over the mountains. Lava fields stretch out in patient ripples, as if the earth once sighed deeply and then decided to remain relaxed for a few thousand years. And in between, there are hot springs that exhale warmth into the night air, slow breaths from the planet itself. Even the stones look like they're practicing deep breathing. Honestly, they're better at it than most of us. Welcome to sleepy nature sleep, where the wild grows soft and curiosity becomes calm. Tonight, let your thoughts follow the rhythm of the earth, your breathing settle like evening wind, and your mind wander gently through the quiet wild. If this place feels peaceful, you're always welcome back, like a familiar path you don't have to explain to anyone. Imagine us all gathered around a quiet campfire that doesn't crackle too loudly, just glowing gently, while the night does what it does best: soften everything. And if you'd like to support the channel, it helps us keep the nightlights low and the nature facts cozy, like offering an extra blanket to the story so it can stay warm for the next listener who wanders in. Tonight, we drift into Iceland, an unspoiled place where the earth shows its textures openly, the hush of glaciers, the sleepy breath of geothermal steam, the steady patience of waterfalls like Gullfoss and Seljalandsfoss, pouring without performance. We'll glide over black sand beaches like Reynisfjara, where the shore feels like velvet in the dark, and we'll linger in the wide, open quiet, where tectonic plates rest close enough to feel like two old friends sitting shoulder to shoulder, not talking much, just being. Above it all, sometimes the northern lights arrive like a slow curtain of color, as if the sky is stretching before bed. No rush, no need to impress, just a soft, shimmering reminder that even the night can be gentle. So let your shoulders loosen, let your jaw unclench, let your thoughts become light, like steam rising from warm ground into cool air. And as we begin, we won't chase the landscape. We'll simply wander with it, quietly, into the calm, drifting story of Iceland. In Iceland, the night often feels wide and gentle, like a quiet room with the windows open. The air is cool, but not sharp. It simply rests against your skin the way clean linen rests against a pillow. Somewhere nearby, the earth releases a little warmth, soft steam drifting up from the ground, pale in the moonlight, as if the land is sighing in its sleep. And in that hush, between warm breath and cold sky, a small question forms, the kind of question that doesn't ask for an answer right away. It just settles beside you, like a calm companion. What does a landscape do when no one is watching? Not what it does for photographs, not what it does for postcards or travel guides, or the part of the human brain that enjoys saying wow, and then immediately checking the battery level. Just what it does in its own private time. When the only audience is the wind, and the only applause is silence. It's a comforting question, because Iceland doesn't seem to perform. The waterfalls keep falling whether or not anyone claps. The moss keeps growing with the steady confidence of someone who has never downloaded a productivity app. The mountains keep holding their shapes, not because they are trying to be inspiring, but because that is simply what mountains do. Sometimes the earth warms a pool of water until it becomes a hot spring, and the hot spring sits there, content. It doesn't send invitations. It doesn't refresh its feed. It just stays warm, like a gentle secret. Sometimes, the sky arranges a ribbon of northern light and lets it drift, slowly, as if it's stretching before bed. It doesn't ask if you're impressed. It doesn't even ask if you're awake. It just glows quietly for whoever happens to be there. And maybe that is the soft lesson hidden inside the question, that nature continues, not with pressure, not with hurry, but with rhythm. A long, patient rhythm that includes stillness as part of its work. Tonight, we'll carry this question like a small lantern with a dim flame, enough to warm the mind, not enough to wake it up. As you listen, you don't have to solve anything. You can simply let the question drift through you, like steam rising into cool air. What does a landscape do when no one is watching? Perhaps it becomes itself even more fully. Perhaps it rests. Perhaps it quietly rearranges time. And as you breathe, slow and easy, you can give yourself permission to do the same. Before we wander any deeper, let's take a gentle look at the world we're entering. Its textures, its pace, its quiet rules. Iceland at night is not one single scene. It's a collection of soft moments stitched together. Open plains, dark water, slow clouds, and stone that seems to hold stories without feeling the need to tell them loudly. The wind is one of the main voices here. It moves over moss and lava rock, and the sound is not dramatic. It's a long hush, like the ocean practicing indoor volume. Sometimes the wind carries a faint saltiness from the coast. Sometimes it carries the clean mineral scent of cold ground. Either way, it keeps everything gently in motion, like a lullaby that never quite ends. And then there is water, everywhere, in different moods. In some places, it slips along as a clear stream, glassy and calm, reflecting little scraps of moonlight. In other places, it gathers into wide, dark lakes that look like they're holding their breath. And in the distance, you may hear a waterfall, not as a sharp sound, but as a steady, low curtain of white noise. The kind of sound that doesn't demand attention, but makes the mind feel safe enough to soften. Iceland's shape comes from simple, patient processes. The island sits across a place where the Earth's crust slowly spreads, like a slow stretch after a long nap. Deep below, warmth rises, and over long periods, it becomes volcanic rock, layer after layer, cooling into dark plains and ridges. Above, snow collects and compresses into glaciers, which move so slowly they feel almost still, yet they quietly carve valleys and guide rivers. It's gentle science, slow motion, long time, soft repetition. Nothing needs to be rushed for it to be real. These landscapes also carry geothermal warmth close to the surface. You might find steam drifting from a crack in the ground, or a pool that stays warm even under a cool sky. It's a comforting contrast. The night air stays crisp, while the earth offers a small, steady kindness from below. And here's a calming thought. The land doesn't compete with itself. Ice and heat share the same map. Water and stone share the same paths. Even the weather seems to move through, not to conquer anything, but to simply pass by. So these are the rules of tonight's world. Wide space, slow time, steady water, patient stone, and warmth that appears in quiet places. If your thoughts start wandering too quickly, let them borrow the pace of Iceland. Let them slow down. Let them spread out. Let them become as spacious as the sky. Somewhere beneath a glacier, warmth rests like a small ember hidden under layers of snow. Steady, quiet, and entirely unbothered by the cold above. This is one of Iceland's gentlest wonders. The way opposites share the same space without needing to make a fuss about it. Above, the glacier lies like a pale blanket pulled over the land. Its surface catches faint moonlight, and in the dimness, it looks smooth in some places, softly wrinkled in others, shaped by wind and time. The air around it feels clean and cool, the kind of cool that makes you breathe a little deeper without thinking about it. A glacier begins as snowfall, soft, ordinary flakes settling down again and again. Over seasons, the snow compresses, slowly turning into ice, not in a hurry, not with any dramatic announcement, just a gradual settling, like a pillow fluffing itself into the right shape. As layers build, the ice becomes dense and faintly blue, holding tiny bubbles of ancient air, little time capsules floating quietly inside the cold. And even though a glacier feels still, it moves. Very slowly, it drifts downhill under its own weight. It's a kind of motion that doesn't disturb the mind, more like a long breath than a step. Over years, it shapes valleys, smooths rock, and guides water into new paths, all with the soft patience of something that never checks the clock. Now, beneath some glaciers in Iceland, geothermal warmth lingers close to the surface. The ground carries heat upward, and where it meets the underside of ice, meltwater forms. It gathers into hidden streams and pockets, flowing in darkness with the calm certainty of water finding its way. If you imagine it, you can picture a secret world. Ice above, stone below, and between them, a slow, quiet river. The water doesn't sparkle for attention. It simply moves gently, like a thought drifting across the mind right before sleep. Sometimes, that meltwater emerges as clear streams that feel almost unreal, as if they've been poured straight from the moon. Sometimes it travels farther, joining rivers that later become waterfalls, soft, continuous threads tying the landscape together. There's something comforting in this arrangement. Coolness above, warmth below, water in between. It's like nature's way of saying that contrasts can belong together, that the mind can hold different feelings at once, tiredness and comfort, stillness and gentle curiosity, and remain steady. And if you listen closely in your imagination, you might hear faint sounds, a quiet creak as ice settles, a soft murmur of water moving unseen, the wind brushing the surface like a hand smoothing a blanket. Let your breathing match that slow rhythm. Let your thoughts become like meltwater, unhurried, flowing, finding an easy path. Let your body rest like ice, supported, calm, allowed to be heavy in the best way. In Iceland, waterfalls are famous, but they don't seem to notice. They pour and fall with the calm confidence of something that has been doing the same soothing work for a very long time. No performance, no spotlight, just water following gravity, again and again, like a gentle habit that never loses its softness. At night, a waterfall becomes more sound than sight. You may not see every ribbon of water clearly, but you can feel its presence in the air, the cool mist, the steady hush, the low, continuous roar that somehow relaxes the mind instead of waking it. It's like listening to the world breathe through a wide, open mouth, slow and steady. The science behind a waterfall is simple and patient. Rivers flow across land shaped by ice, weather, and time. In Iceland, meltwater from glaciers feeds many of these rivers, and the water travels over volcanic rock laid down in layers. Some layers are tough and stubborn, some wear down more easily. Over long periods, the river gently shapes an edge, and water spills over it, day after day, night after night, making a waterfall not as an event, but as a continuation. And repetition is part of why it feels so calming. A waterfall doesn't debate, it doesn't hesitate, it doesn't wonder if it should switch things up for variety. It simply falls, and in doing so, it offers a steady rhythm, nature's version of a metronome, keeping time for sleepy thoughts. If you stand nearby, mist drifts toward you like cool breath. Tiny droplets settle on your skin and vanish, as if the night is tapping you softly to say, "You can relax now." The air smells fresh and mineral, like clean stone after rain. And the ground near the water often feels alive with gentle vibration, subtle, soothing, almost like a purring engine, except far kinder and with much better manners. There's also something quietly funny about the way waterfalls work so consistently and still look effortlessly relaxed. Water might be the ultimate calm overachiever. It shows up. It does the thing beautifully, and it never once appears stressed about it. If water could talk, it might say, "I'm not trying to be impressive. I'm just being water." Let the sound of falling water become a soft blanket for your mind. Each rush and hush is a reminder that calm doesn't have to be forced. Sometimes it arrives through rhythm, steady, dependable, and gentle enough to carry you closer to sleep with every breath. And if your thoughts wander, that's fine. Let them wander like river water, quietly, smoothly, until they too find an edge, and then simply fall into rest. On Iceland's southern coast, the night settles onto the shoreline like a soft cloak, and there, under the dim sky, the beach looks almost unreal, black sand stretching wide, smooth in places, pebbled in others, as if the earth has poured out a quiet ink and let it dry into texture. In the moonlight, the sand doesn't sparkle loudly. It glows in a gentle way, absorbing light more than reflecting it, like velvet. The ocean arrives in slow, even breaths. Each wave leans in, pauses, and then eases back, leaving a thin lace of foam that fades as calmly as a thought drifting away. This dark shoreline comes from a patient kind of geology. Much of Iceland is built from volcanic rock, and over long stretches of time, lava cools into basalt. Then, slowly, weather and water break that rock down into smaller pieces, grains, pebbles, soft fragments that gather along the coast. No hurry, no drama, just time doing its quiet work. Near places like Reynisfjara, basalt columns stand like orderly stacks, as if the land decided to organize itself neatly for once. They look architectural, but they're simply the result of cooling lava contracting in patterns, nature's way of making geometry without using a ruler. If you've ever tried to fold a fitted sheet neatly, you'll understand why this feels mildly impressive. The air by the sea carries salt and coolness, and the soundscape becomes simple. Wave, hush, wave, hush. Sometimes the wind adds a low whisper through the rocks. Sometimes the water adds a deeper note, like a slow drum far away. Nothing here feels urgent. The ocean doesn't rush. It doesn't try to be louder than the sky. It simply keeps time. And the black sand has its own calm personality. It holds footprints for a while, then smooths them away, not out of rudeness, but out of habit. A gentle erasing, a reminder that the land doesn't cling to every mark. It accepts what comes, and then it softens again. If your mind has been holding on to too many small impressions, too many little tracks from the day, imagine this shore. Imagine each thought as a footprint, and imagine the ocean arriving kindly, one quiet breath at a time, smoothing everything back into rest. Stay here for a moment. Let the darkness feel supportive, not empty. Let the rhythm of water teach your breathing its pace, in and out, like waves that never worry about getting it perfect. Some warmth in Iceland doesn't come from the sun. It comes from below, steady, hidden, and oddly comforting, like a mug that stays warm even when you've stopped thinking about it. In the quiet of night, a hot spring feels like a small kindness the earth offers without announcement. Steam rises in slow curls, drifting upward and dissolving into the air as if it's trying not to disturb anyone. The water sits in its pool with a calm confidence, warm and still, while the world around it stays cool and hushed. Geothermal warmth is one of Iceland's gentle signatures. Deep below the surface, heat remains from the Earth's interior, and in places where it travels closer to the top, it warms groundwater. That water finds cracks, pores, and pathways through rock, and it gathers into springs, some mild, some very warm, all of them quietly persistent. Sometimes you see geysers too, but tonight we'll let even the geysers feel sleepy in our imagination, like they're just stretching occasionally, not trying to startle anyone. The main feeling here is not excitement, it's comfort, a warm pocket in a cool landscape. The area around geothermal springs often carries a mineral scent, earthy, clean, a little strange in a way that feels ancient rather than unpleasant. The ground might look painted with pale colors, soft whites, gentle yellows, muted greens. These come from minerals and tiny organisms that enjoy warmth, living their small lives at their own quiet speed. And there's something sweetly amusing about how Iceland's hot springs behave like the most relaxed hosts. They don't send invites. They don't ask what time you'll arrive. They simply sit there, warm and welcoming, like, "Oh, you're here? Lovely. Come rest." If the Earth had a spa membership, it would absolutely keep it private. As you imagine this place, let your shoulders drop a little lower. Let your jaw loosen. Picture yourself near the edge of warm water, listening to the faint sound of bubbling, soft, irregular, like someone humming under their breath. Steam lifts into the night, and the night accepts it gently. Warmth rises. Cool air surrounds it. Neither one argues. They just share the same space. And maybe that's the quiet lesson here. You can be tired and still be okay. You can be cool on the outside and warm within. You can let the day fade while something steady inside you stays softly lit. Breathe in as if you're drawing in that gentle warmth. Breathe out as if you're releasing steam, slowly, kindly, without effort. Let your thoughts thin out like mist until they become part of the night air, and you are simply here. Resting across Iceland's lava fields, there are places where the ground looks dark and rugged, shaped long ago into frozen ripples. And then, like a quiet miracle, you notice the moss, soft green cushions spreading over the rock, turning a hard landscape into something that looks almost cozy. At night, the moss seems even softer. It holds moonlight gently, not shiny, just present. The air above it feels calm and cool, and the land feels like it has been wrapped in a living blanket. It's the kind of scene that makes you want to lower your voice, even if no one else is around. Moss is not flashy. It doesn't grow tall. It doesn't insist on being noticed. It simply arrives slowly and stays. In places where soil is thin and conditions feel harsh, moss still finds a way, gathering moisture from air and rain, anchoring itself to rock, beginning the long, quiet process of making a place softer. On lava fields, this matters. Lava cools into basalt, rough and porous, and over time it breaks down. Wind, water, and temperature shift slowly where the surface. Tiny particles collect. Organic matter builds in small amounts, and moss, patient, persistent moss, helps hold it together, creating the beginnings of a gentler layer where other life can eventually follow. If ecosystems had personalities, moss would be the friend who improves your life in subtle ways. No big speeches, no dramatic announcements. It just quietly makes the space better. Moss is basically the interior designer of nature. Let's soften this corner. Let's add a bit of calm. Let's make the whole place feel more restful. And it does all this without hurrying. Moss measures success in seasons, not minutes. It doesn't worry about being behind. It doesn't compare itself to a tree. It simply becomes more moss. Honestly, that's a level of self-confidence most of us would pay for in a subscription, though moss, of course, would never sell you anything. In the hush of night, you can imagine the lava field beneath, dark and ancient, and the moss above, gentle and alive. The contrast is comforting. Hard rock supporting softness, old earth supporting new growth. Let your mind borrow that feeling. If you feel rough around the edges from the day, imagine moss settling over those edges, softening them, not erasing them, just making them kinder to hold. Breathe slowly. Let each breath be a small layer of calm, laid down gently, like moss gathering itself over stone. Nothing forced, nothing hurried, just the quiet miracle of softness returning. There are places in Iceland where you can stand and feel the idea of the planet, quietly, gently, like a thought you don't need to chase. The land here sits along a boundary where tectonic plates meet and drift, slowly, patiently, almost politely. In the night, this doesn't feel dramatic. It feels spacious. The landscape opens up into valleys and fissures, into rock that looks thoughtfully arranged, as if the earth has been slowly reorganizing its living room for a very long time. And maybe it has. The science is simple in its own calm way. Iceland rests on the mid-Atlantic ridge, where the North American and Eurasian plates gradually move apart, not with suddenness, but with steady motion measured in small distances over long time. As the plates drift, magma can rise and cool into new rock, adding fresh layers to the land. It's the planet's slow craftwork, like knitting, but with basalt. When you imagine this process at night, it doesn't feel like movement the way we usually think of movement. It feels like deep stretching, like the earth is taking a long, slow breath and making space for itself, without any complaint, without any hurry. In some places, the ground shows cracks and rifts, lines where the land has opened slightly over time. These spaces can look like quiet paths, like gentle seams in a vast quilt. Wind moves through them, carrying cool air and faint mineral scents, and the sound is soft, more whisper than whistle. It's comforting to remember that the land changes without anxiety. It doesn't worry about staying the same. It doesn't panic when it shifts. It simply continues, one small adjustment at a time. And there's something mildly funny about how patient tectonic plates are. If humans moved this slowly, we'd call it taking forever. But when the Earth does it, we call it geology, and suddenly everyone nods respectfully. The planet has excellent branding. As you rest with this idea, let it loosen something in you. You don't have to solve your whole life tonight. You don't have to rearrange everything at once. You can shift gently. You can make space slowly. You can stretch, not strain. Imagine your thoughts as plates too, separate, drifting, creating room between them. In that room, quiet can enter, breath can settle, sleep can become possible. Let your breathing follow the earth's pace, slow, steady, unpressured. Let your mind feel spacious, like a valley under a wide night sky. And if a thought arrives, let it pass through like wind in a rift, noticed, and then gone, leaving you softer and more still. Sometimes, the Icelandic night offers a kind of gentle spectacle, not loud, not demanding, just quietly beautiful, like the sky remembering it can sing. The northern lights arrive as soft ribbons of color, drifting across darkness in slow motion. They do not rush. They do not snap or shout. They appear the way a dream appears, gradually, almost politely, like they're checking first to make sure you're comfortable. Scientifically, the aurora is born from the sun's energy meeting Earth's atmosphere, guided by our planet's magnetic field. Tiny particles travel, and when they mingle with gases high above, light appears. Green most commonly, sometimes hints of purple or pink. It's physics, yes, but it feels like poetry that happens to be accurate. Tonight, we don't need the details to be heavy. We can keep the science light in our hands, like holding a warm stone. The main feeling is this: the sky glows, and the world below stays quiet enough to receive it. Imagine standing under that wide darkness, snow or stone beneath your feet, cold air on your cheeks, and above, the aurora moves like silk in a slow breeze, folding, unfolding, drifting as if it's stretching after a long nap. There's a comforting humor in how calm the lights feel, considering how far they traveled to get here. If most of us had to journey from the sun to the upper atmosphere, we'd want at least a snack break and a good playlist. The northern lights simply arrive and float, as if to say, "No worries, we're just passing through." And the land beneath doesn't react dramatically. The glaciers remain still, the lava fields remain quiet. The ocean continues its slow breathing. Nature doesn't interrupt itself for the aurora. It simply lets beauty happen overhead, while everything else keeps resting. Let that be your permission too. You can let something beautiful drift through your mind without grabbing it, without analyzing it, without turning it into a task. You can watch it softly, the way you watch shadows on a wall when you're half asleep. Picture the lights as gentle thoughts, pretty, slow, harmless, moving across the dark space of your awareness. You don't have to hold them. You don't have to follow them. You can simply notice and then let them float on. Breathe in, as if drawing in a little quiet glow. Breathe out, as if releasing the day's noise into the night air. Let your mind become a wide sky. Let your body become the calm land below. And if sleep comes while the lights are still drifting, that's perfectly fitting. Even the sky, after all, knows how to soften into darkness again. There are nights in Iceland when the world seems to pause beside water, especially near a glacial lagoon, where the surface holds a calm so smooth, it feels like a thought that has finally decided to rest. In the dim light, you see shapes drifting. Icebergs, small, quiet travelers, floating with an unhurried dignity. Some look like pale sculptures. Some carry faint blue seams inside them, like soft ink lines drawn by time. They move slowly, not because they are trying to be graceful, but because the lagoon teaches everything to slow down. A glacial lagoon forms where a glacier meets lower land and releases meltwater into a basin. Over time, pieces of ice calve gently from the glacier's edge and drift into the lagoon, becoming floating islands of cold. The process is not loud in our story tonight. It is simply part of the glacier's long rhythm: hold, settle, release, then drift. The lagoon itself often connects to the sea through a river-like channel. Water flows in and out with tides, quietly exchanging. Salt and fresh water mingle, like two neighbors sharing a fence line without any need for conversation. Sometimes seals rest in these waters too, appearing like smooth commas in the sentence of the night, pausing, floating, then slipping under again without making a point of it. The air feels crisp here, yet strangely gentle. You can imagine the faint sound of ice turning in water, soft, hollow murmurs, like a glass clinking far away in a sleepy kitchen. The surface reflects the sky with such calm clarity that it feels like the lagoon is holding the night up, carefully, so it doesn't fall. And there's something quietly funny about how photogenic these icebergs are, even while they're doing absolutely nothing for attention. They drift around looking like they were styled by an art director, when really, they're just being ice. If ice had an ego, this would be its moment. But it doesn't. It just floats. As you listen, let your thoughts become like these pieces of ice, separate from the glacier of your busy day. Let them loosen gently from the edges of effort, and drift into a wider stillness. You don't have to carry everything all at once. You can float. Breathe in as if you're drawing in clean, cold air that clears the mind. Breathe out as if you're releasing weight into water, letting it be held. In the lagoon, nothing rushes, nothing insists. Ice drifts, water breathes, the night watches softly, and you too can drift quietly toward rest. Some of Iceland's most peaceful sights look almost arranged, like the land decided to be tidy for once. Basalt columns rise from cliffs and hide near waterfalls, stacked in neat shapes that resemble organ pipes, honeycomb walls, or carefully placed stone books on a shelf. At night, these columns become even more mysterious. Their edges soften in dim light. Their shadows deepen into calm patterns. They stand quietly, patient and unmoving, like the Earth's version of a library. No talking, no running, just solid silence and good structure. Basalt columns form when lava cools slowly. As it cools, it contracts, and that contraction can create cracks that spread in repeating shapes, often hexagonal. Not because nature is showing off, though it could if it wanted to, but because this is one of the most efficient ways for cooling rock to settle into itself. Efficiency, in this case, looks beautiful. If you imagine walking near them in the hush of night, you might hear wind brushing the stone faces, a soft whisper traveling along their grooves. Near a waterfall like Svardafoss, water falls in a steady sheet beside these dark columns, the sound mixing with the stillness in a way that feels like a lullaby made of rock and water. The texture of basalt is dark and smooth in some places, rougher in others, and it holds coldness like a calm truth. And yet, even in that cold stone, there's a sense of warmth in the story, because these shapes began as molten lava long ago, and now they rest, cooled and composed, as if the land has exhaled and finally settled into a comfortable posture. There's a gentle humor in the idea that the Earth makes better geometry than most of us ever did in school. Basalt columns are what happens when lava tries its best, and its best is stunning architectural perfection. Meanwhile, some of us still draw circles that look like potatoes. It's fine. We all have different talents. As you rest with this image, let it bring a quiet order to your mind. Imagine your thoughts stacking themselves neatly like columns. Not rigid, not forced, just a line. The scattered pieces of the day can become calm shapes. The mind can feel organized without effort. Breathe slowly and picture cool stone in moonlight. Picture the waterfall's steady sound nearby, smoothing everything into a gentle rhythm. Picture the land sitting quietly, proud without pride, beautiful without trying. And let your own body feel the same, supported, structured, calm, like the earth itself, holding you safely in place while sleep begins to arrive. In Iceland, the earth sometimes stretches in a way you can see. A geyser is simply water and heat sharing a quiet routine, warming, gathering, releasing, then returning to stillness again. And at night, even this feels soft. The steam rises like a whisper. The warmth lingers close to the ground like a hidden blanket. The dark sky above makes every pale cloud of vapor look tender, as if it were drawn in chalk. Here's the gentle science. Underground, water collects in natural chambers and cracks in the rock. Geothermal heat warms it. Pressure builds slowly as the water nears boiling. And then, at certain moments, the system releases, sending hot water and steam upward. Not because it is angry, not because it is dramatic, just because that is how this warm underground plumbing happens to work. Tonight, in our sleepy telling, we let the whole process feel like a slow, familiar stretch, like the earth has been resting, and now it simply lifts its arms for a moment, then settles back down. You can imagine the geyser basin in the night, ground stained in pale mineral colors, steam drifting low, pools reflecting faint stars. The air smells lightly of minerals, earthy, ancient, oddly clean. The soundscape is small and comforting, soft bubbling, gentle gurgles, the faint hiss of steam. It's like the landscape is making tea for itself. And there's something quietly funny about how predictable some geysers can be. Humans love schedules, yet most of us still can't manage to drink enough water during the day. Meanwhile, the geyser is out here doing a full routine. Warm up, release, repeat. If the earth ever starts offering productivity coaching, it might begin with hydrate, stretch, rest, do it again tomorrow. But even that humor stays soft, because the main feeling here is comfort. As you listen, imagine the warmth rising from below, not as excitement, but as reassurance. The earth holds steady heat, like a slow heartbeat. The cool night air accepts the steam without complaint. Everything works together quietly, water, rock, and heat, each playing its part without needing applause. Now let your breathing follow that rhythm. Inhale gently, like warmth collecting. Exhale slowly, like steam drifting away. You don't have to force your thoughts to stop. You can let them rise and fade naturally, one soft release at a time. And in the space that remains, after the mind lets go, you may notice something simple and kind. Stillness is not empty. It is full of quiet warmth. Some parts of Iceland feel open and wide, like the land is giving you extra breathing space. And then there are places that feel sheltered, lava caves and tunnels where the earth holds its own quiet interior. At night, imagining a lava cave feels like stepping into a softer kind of silence. The entrance is a dark curve in the rock. Inside, the air turns cool and steady, like a basement that never worries about weather. The sounds from outside fade, and the world becomes a calm chamber of stone. Lava caves form when flowing lava cools on the outside, creating a hardened crust, while the lava inside continues to move. Over time, that inner flow drains away, leaving a tunnel behind, an empty pathway where heat once traveled. It's like the earth built a hallway for fire, and then, when the fire moved on, the hallway remained. In these caves, the textures are gentle in their own rugged way. The walls can look smooth in places, rippled in others, like frozen waves. Sometimes you find little mineral formations, small icicles of rock that once dripped and cooled. And sometimes, in winter, real ice forms inside too, cold meeting cold, creating delicate crystals in the quiet. Tonight, we don't need to walk fast. We don't need to explore in any exciting way. We can simply imagine sitting near the mouth of the cave, where you can still sense the open night air, but you're wrapped in the calm shelter of stone. There's something comforting about the idea that even a volcanic landscape has quiet rooms, that even fire leaves behind places for rest. The land, it seems, knows how to create shelter out of motion, how to turn old heat into cool protection. And there's a soft little joke hiding here too. Lava caves are proof that the Earth at some point made a space and then decided, you know what, I'm done furnishing. No chairs, no lamps, just vibes. Minimalism, but make it geological. As you rest with this image, let it become a place in your mind where you don't have to perform. A place where your thoughts can echo for a moment and then fade. A place where your breathing sounds like the only necessary sound. Inhale slowly, feeling the steadiness of stone. Exhale gently, letting the day's noise drift out into the night, where it can dissolve like steam. And if sleep begins to feel closer, let it. Let your mind become a quiet tunnel, empty in the best way, holding only calm air, soft darkness, and the steady rhythm of your breath. Across the Icelandic landscape, you may find a gentle presence moving through the grasslands. Small, sturdy horses with thick coats and calm eyes, as if they've personally decided that anxiety is simply not part of the scenery. In the night, imagining them feels like adding warmth to the wide, cool world. They stand in small groups, close enough to feel like community, but not crowded. Their breath turns to faint mist in the cold air, soft puffs that vanish quickly, like sleepy punctuation. Icelandic horses are known for their resilience and steady temperament. Living in a place shaped by wind, cold, and open space, they grow into a kind of quiet strength, compact bodies, thick manes, sure-footed movement. They are comfortable in weather that might make other creatures complain loudly, and they do it without making a big deal about it. They graze slowly, heads down, moving with the unhurried focus of someone who has nowhere else to be. Their routine is simple: eat, rest, shift a few steps, eat again. It's not boring, it's peaceful. It's the kind of schedule the human nervous system secretly admires. If you listen closely in your imagination, you might hear soft hoof sounds on damp ground, the quiet tear of grass, a gentle snort. Nothing sharp, nothing sudden, just life moving at a pace that feels friendly to sleep. And there's a sweet bit of humor in how these horses carry themselves. They look like they've been wrapped in natural sweaters. Their manes sometimes blow in the wind like slow-motion hair commercials, except the brand is simply weather. If they had a slogan, it might be warm, sturdy, unbothered. They also have a distinctive way of moving, including a smooth gait that feels like gliding. Even their walking, in a way, seems designed to keep things calm. They don't stomp dramatically. They place their hooves with quiet confidence, as if the ground has always been a trusted friend. Let this image settle into you: a wide field under a dark sky, horses resting in the open, perfectly content. Let their calm become contagious. If your mind has been pacing, invite it to graze instead, slowly, gently, without needing to figure anything out. Breathe in and feel the cool air soften. Breathe out and feel your body grow heavier, like a warm coat settling around your shoulders. The horses keep their quiet routine. The land stays wide and steady. And you, here, listening, can rest in that steadiness too. In Iceland, Rivers often feel like they were poured from the sky and then quietly guided into place. At night, their surfaces can look almost silver, reflecting moonlight in thin, shifting ribbons that move gently, as if the water is brushing its hair before bed. These rivers begin in soft ways. Snow gathers on high ground, settles into glaciers, and when warmth arrives, even a mild warmth, the ice releases a little water. That meltwater slips into streams, then gathers into rivers, and travels across the land with a steady patience. It does not rush to be somewhere else. It simply goes where the slope and the rock invite it. In some places, the water runs clear, cold, and clean enough to feel like it belongs in a glass on a bedside table. In other places, glacial rivers carry fine sediment, tiny particles of rock ground down by ice over a long time. That gives the water a pale, milky look, like the river is holding a cloud inside it. There is no need to choose which is more beautiful. Iceland doesn't ask you to pick favorites. It offers both. As the river travels, it shapes the land quietly. It smooths stones, rounds edges, and creates gentle curves and valleys. Even when the river becomes fast in places, the overall feeling remains soothing, like a long sentence spoken in a calm voice. You don't feel chased by the sound. You feel carried. If you stand near such water in your imagination, you might hear the soft tumble of pebbles beneath the surface, the hush of flow, the occasional delicate splash against a rock. The air nearby feels cooler and slightly damp, and there's a clean scent, mineral and fresh, like a calm mind. And there's something quietly funny about how rivers never seem to second-guess themselves. Humans can spend hours deciding which route to take, even with maps and turn-by-turn directions. A river looks at a slope and says, "Ah, yes, this way." Confidence, clarity, no group chat required. Tonight, let your thoughts become like this river, guided, unhurried, quietly certain. If a thought arrives, let it float along. If another thought arrives, let it join. You don't have to hold them tightly. You can let them travel. Breathe in slowly, like drawing cool river air into your chest. Breathe out, like releasing the day into moving water. Imagine the river taking it kindly, carrying it away, smoothing it down, turning it into something gentle. The water continues, patient and steady. And you too can continue, drifting into rest, one quiet breath at a time. A glacier at night can feel like a sleeping giant, still, quiet, and strangely comforting. And sometimes, if the light is right, you glimpse a blue tint within the ice, a soft, deep blue that looks almost like the glacier is holding a piece of twilight inside. That blue comes from density. As snow compresses into ice over a long time, air pockets become smaller. The ice becomes clearer, more tightly packed. And when light passes through, the ice absorbs some colors more than others, leaving behind that gentle blue glow, subtle, calm, and oddly soothing to look at. The glacier doesn't glow like a lamp. It glows like a secret. In the quiet of Icelandic night, you can imagine standing near an ice face. The air feels cool and clean. The surface of the glacier shows faint lines, layers of snowfall from different seasons, pressed together into a slow record of time. Some lines are thin and pale. Some are slightly darker, dusted with tiny particles carried by wind long ago. This is what a glacier is: water that learned patience. It moves, but so slowly that its movement feels like stillness. It shifts downhill with steady weight, shaping the land beneath it, carving valleys, polishing stone, guiding rivers into their paths. The glacier does not hurry. It does not worry about being late. It has never once checked a calendar. It simply continues, because gravity is a calm instructor and the earth is generous with time. And there's a soft humor in that too. Humans say, "I need more time," as if time is a product that might be out of stock. The glacier is surrounded by time and uses it like a slow-spreading blanket. If glaciers could speak, they might whisper, "Have you tried waiting?" Tonight, we borrow the glacier's way of being, heavy, supported, allowed to rest. Imagine your muscles loosening as if they are becoming warmer beneath a layer of cool air. Imagine your thoughts slowing, becoming fewer, more spacious, like snowflakes settling gently one by one. Breathe in and picture that deep blue heart of ice, cool, calm, steady. Breathe out and let your mind soften around it. In this landscape, even water knows how to be still. And as you listen, you can let yourself be still too, without effort, without forcing, simply settling into the quiet weight of rest. Some nights in Iceland feel so clear that the sky looks polished. The air holds very little haze, and the stars appear with a crispness that feels almost close enough to touch, like the night has leaned in, kindly, to show you its details. You don't need to name constellations here. You don't need to understand anything complicated. You can simply look upward in your imagination and let your mind become wide. Stars are restful that way. They don't ask for plans. They don't require you to respond. They just shine quietly, as if shining is their softest habit. In a place with low light pollution, the night becomes deeper. Darkness is not a blankness. It is a space where small lights feel more meaningful. The Milky Way can appear as a faint band, like a dusty ribbon drawn across the sky. And clouds, when they pass, move slowly, like drifting blankets. Sometimes, in the far distance, you may still hear water, a waterfall, a river, keeping a gentle sound on the ground. And above, the sky stays steady, like a calm ceiling over the world. There's a simple kind of science here too. Colder air holds less moisture, and in certain conditions, the atmosphere becomes clearer. That clarity allows starlight to reach your eyes with less scattering, making the sky feel sharp and bright. It's an easy explanation, but the feeling remains magical anyway. Knowledge doesn't ruin wonder. It can make it warmer. And here's a gentle joke the sky might tell. Stars have been shining for an absurdly long time, and yet they never seem tired. Meanwhile, some of us need a nap after sending 3 emails. The universe is clearly built on different energy management strategies. We can respect it from under a blanket. As you rest with this image, let the sky teach your mind spaciousness. You don't have to pack every thought tightly together. You can let there be gaps. You can let there be silence between ideas, the way there is darkness between stars. Breathe in slowly, as if drawing in cool, clear air. Breathe out, as if releasing the day's clutter into the wide night. Let your shoulders drop. Let your eyes soften behind your eyelids. The stars remain steady. The land remains quiet. and you can be held in that quiet, like the earth holding up the sky while sleep comes closer, calmly, naturally, with no need to hurry. Along Iceland's coast, cliffs rise where rock meets ocean. Even in the dark, you can sense their presence, a steady boundary, a quiet edge. The land stands firm, the sea breathes below, and between them is a calm agreement. Each stays in its place, each doing what it does best. Cliffs are shaped over long time by water, wind, and weather. Waves press in, not angrily, just persistently, one soft impact after another. Salt air wears at rock, rain seeps into cracks. In colder seasons, water can freeze and expand, slowly changing the shape of stone. The cliff becomes a record of these small, repeated touches. At night, the ocean sound below can be deep and soothing, like a slow drum played far away. Foam appears briefly on dark water and then dissolves. The cliff face catches little scraps of moonlight on its rough surfaces, while shadows rest in the deeper grooves. Sometimes seabirds nest along these cliffs in warmer seasons, and even when you don't see them, you can imagine the idea of their homes, small ledges, sheltered pockets, quiet places made in the rock. Nature builds without noise, and there's something comforting about standing near an edge that isn't yours to cross. The cliff doesn't invite rushing thoughts. It invites stillness. It says, in its quiet way, you can stop here. You can look. You can breathe. There's also a tiny bit of humor in how confident cliffs are. They've been standing here a long time, and they don't seem worried about opinions. If cliffs had social media, they'd post one photo every 5 years, caption it, "Still here," and log off. Truly inspiring levels of not caring. As you listen, let your mind become like this coastline, clear boundaries, calm edges, steady ground. Let the ocean below represent the gentle movement of thoughts, present, rhythmic, not demanding. Thoughts can arrive and fade like waves. You don't have to follow them out to sea. Breathe in, feeling the steady firmness of land. Breathe out, releasing into the ocean's slow rhythm. Let your nervous system settle the way the coastline settles into itself, firm where it needs to be, soft where it can be. The sea continues its quiet breathing. The cliffs continue their patient standing. And you too can rest at the edge of the day, safely held, letting sleep arrive like the next slow wave. Even in a land of wide wilderness, Iceland holds small human lights, villages and towns where warmth gathers in windows and the night feels gently lived in. Imagine a quiet road under a dark sky. The air is crisp, the ground is calm, and ahead, a cluster of houses sits low against the wind, shaped for comfort rather than show. In the windows, soft yellow light glows like honey. It doesn't spill loudly. It simply rests there, warm and steady, as if the homes are quietly saying, "Come in. You can exhale here." The science of warmth here is simple. Shelter matters. In a climate where wind and cold can linger, people build in ways that hold heat and reduce exposure. Roofs, walls, insulation, practical kindness in physical form. And in many places, geothermal energy provides warmth. Like the earth itself is helping keep the lights gentle and the rooms cozy. Outside, the night stays wide. Inside, the human world becomes small. Cups on tables, blankets folded, quiet routines. You can almost hear it. The faint clink of a spoon, the soft sound of a door closing, the hush of someone moving slowly so they don't wake another. There's something deeply calming about knowing that even in dramatic landscapes, people still do ordinary things. They make tea, they read, they sit, they rest. The wild does not erase comfort, it sits beside it. And there's a soft little joke here too. Icelandic darkness can be so long in winter that if you blink, you may accidentally skip 3 hours of night. The village lights seem to understand this and respond with, "It's fine, we'll keep glowing. Take your time." As you listen, imagine yourself walking slowly past these windows, not as a visitor who needs to do anything, but as someone allowed to simply feel warmth nearby. Let that warmth become a gentle reassurance. Even in wide, quiet places, there is shelter, there is light, there is steadiness. Breathe in as if you're drawing in that soft glow. Breathe out as if you're letting your worries dim, like a lamp turning lower. The village stays calm, the night stays gentle, and you can rest in the space between them, where wilderness and comfort meet, letting sleep approach like warmth spreading through a room, slowly, quietly, until you barely notice you've drifted. A fjord at night feels like the land has opened its arms and decided to hold water gently without squeezing. Mountains rise on either side, dark and steady, and the water between them lies calm, sometimes so calm it looks like it's practicing being a mirror. In Iceland, fjords were shaped over a long time by glaciers that moved slowly through valleys, carving deep channels in the rock. When the ice retreated, the sea entered those carved spaces, filling them with salt water. The result is a landscape that feels both grand and quiet. High walls of land and a soft ribbon of water resting below. At night, the fjord's surface often reflects whatever the sky is doing. If the clouds drift, the water holds their shadows. If stars appear, the water keeps a faint version of their light. Even the faint glow from distant homes can tremble gently on the surface, like a small candle flame seen through glass. The air here feels cool and clean. Sound travels differently too. Soft echoes, distant calls, a quiet hush that seems to bounce lightly off the slopes. If there is wind, it moves along the water like a slow hand smoothing a blanket. If there isn't, the stillness feels complete. The kind of stillness that gives your thoughts permission to slow down because nothing around you is rushing. There's something soothing about the fjord's shape. It feels contained, sheltered. The land forms a calm boundary that holds the water in place. And in that boundary, you can imagine safety, not as a tight grip, but as a gentle frame. It's also faintly funny how elegant fjords look, considering their origin story is basically a glacier came through here and redecorated. Nature's version of a home renovation, except the timeline is extremely long. Like, we'll be finished in a few thousand years. Thank you for your patience. Tonight, let your mind borrow the fjord's mood. Let your thoughts become water, smooth, reflective, unforced. You don't have to push away thoughts. You can simply let them float and settle. If a worry appears, imagine it as a small ripple that fades naturally as the surface returns to calm. Breathe in as if you're drawing in the clean air between mountains. Breathe out, as if you're releasing tension into the water below. Let the fjord hold it, quietly, like a bowl holding stillness. The mountains remain steady. The water remains calm. And you too can become a quiet mirror, reflecting only what is gentle, letting everything else drift away. In Iceland, a small animal moves through the landscape with a kind of quiet cleverness, the Arctic fox. At night, imagining it feels like watching a little thought glide across snow and stone, light-footed and calm. The Arctic fox is built for cold places. It has thick fur that changes with the season, whiter in winter, darker in summer, helping it blend into the world around it. Its ears are small, which helps reduce heat loss, and its body is compact, like a creature designed by someone who understands the comfort of staying warm without making a big deal about it. In our gentle night story, the fox doesn't dart or chase. It simply moves with quiet intention, pausing often, listening, sniffing, noticing. Its world is full of subtle signals, the scent of the ground, the faint movement of air, tiny sounds tucked into the landscape. It lives in a sensory poem where small details are enough. Arctic foxes are opportunistic feeders, meaning they eat what the land offers: small animals, birds, eggs, and sometimes leftovers from larger creatures. But tonight, we keep everything calm and soft. We focus on the fox's routine, wandering, searching gently, then settling into rest when the night feels deep enough. If you imagine the fox in moonlight, its fur looks plush and quiet, like it's wearing winter's best blanket. It might pause near a rock, nose lifted, as if sampling the night air. It might curl its tail around its body for warmth, an elegant little spiral of comfort. There's something adorably funny about how prepared the Arctic fox is for winter. It looks like it packed for the cold months with a checklist. Warm coat? Check. Built-in scarf? Check. Face that always looks slightly smug about surviving? Also check. Meanwhile, humans step outside and say, "Oh no, it's chilly, like we didn't see winter coming." Let the fox's calm teach your mind something gentle. You can move through your world with less effort than you think. You can take small steps. You can pause. You can listen to quiet details. And you can rest when it's time. Breathe in and imagine cold air feeling fresh rather than harsh. Breathe out and imagine yourself curling into warmth the way the fox curls into its own fur, protected, comfortable, safe. The fox continues its quiet wandering, and your thoughts can wander too, slowly, softly, until they settle into sleep. In warmer months, Iceland's cliffs become home to a bird that looks like it wandered out of a storybook, the Atlantic puffin. Even when we imagine it at night, we can keep the feeling gentle, soft, affectionate, quietly amused by how charming nature can be. Puffins nest in burrows or crevices along grassy cliff tops, often in large colonies. They return to the same areas year after year, as if they have a favorite neighborhood and see no reason to move. Their routines feel comforting in their steadiness, returning, settling, tending, resting. Puffins are seabirds, and they spend much of their time at sea, floating on water with a calm buoyancy. Their bodies are adapted for swimming and diving, using their wings like underwater paddles. But in our sleepy telling, we linger on the quieter parts, the way they stand at the cliff's edge, looking out over dark water, the way they tuck their beaks close when they rest, the way a whole colony can feel like a gentle community. Their beaks are colorful in breeding season, bright and striking, yet the puffin itself often behaves like it's trying to stay modest. It's as if nature gave it a fancy outfit, and the puffin responded, "Thank you. I will now sit quietly and not make a scene." At night, the cliffs are calm. The ocean below continues its slow breathing. The wind passes over grass and rock with a soft whisper. And the puffins, when resting, settle into their burrows like small, sleepy tenants of the earth. There's an affectionate little joke in their appearance too. Puffins have a look that seems permanently surprised and slightly amused, like they just heard a gentle joke and are still deciding whether to laugh. If you've ever tried to keep a straight face while sleepy, you'll recognize the vibe. As you imagine this cliffside world, let it bring comfort through belonging. The puffins return. The land receives them. The sea holds them. Everything fits into a rhythm that doesn't require effort. Breathe in and imagine the clean ocean air, cool and soothing. Breathe out and imagine yourself settling into your own safe place, the way a puffin settles into a burrow, quiet, tucked away, protected from the wind. The cliffs stand steady. The ocean continues softly, and your mind can become a gentle shore too, where thoughts arrive, pause briefly, and then drift away, leaving only calm behind. Iceland holds memory in a way that feels quiet and kind. Not the sharp kind of memory that interrupts you at inconvenient times, but the slow, layered kind, like sediment settling, like snow building gently on itself, like rock remembering heat long after the flame is gone. When you look at a lava field, you see an ancient moment of movement that has since become still. The land once flowed, and now it rests. The ripples remain, frozen in place, like the earth paused mid-sentence and decided that the silence afterward was also worth keeping. When you look at a glacier, you see memory pressed into blue. Each layer of snow is a small record of a season. Each tiny bubble of air tucked inside the ice is a quiet archive, held without fuss. Glaciers don't hold grudges. They hold time. They keep it in a calm, cool way. Like a library that never charges late fees. And water, always water, carries memory too. Rivers remember the shape of valleys. Waterfalls remember the edge where rock yields. The ocean remembers the moon's pull, returning again and again with that steady rhythm we begin to trust. Even the moss feels like memory made soft. It settles over rough rock and slowly changes the texture of a place, not by forcing anything, but by staying quietly, patiently, until hardness becomes less harsh to touch. There's something comforting about this. It suggests that memory doesn't have to be heavy. It can be gentle. It can be a landscape you pass through without needing to climb every mountain of thought. And there's a small, affectionate humor in it too. Iceland's rocks are excellent at remembering, yet they never bring things up at the wrong moment. They don't say, by the way, remember that embarrassing thing from 2009? They simply exist, holding their history quietly, like very mature friends. Tonight, let this idea settle into you. The world is full of memory that doesn't demand. Tracks in sand fade, ice holds layers, lava keeps ripples, and everything eventually finds a softer shape. If your own mind has been holding too much, too many small moments, too many lingering echoes, imagine placing them gently into a landscape. Let the land hold them for you. Let the river carry some away. Let the moss cover sharp edges. Let the glacier press the rest into calm, cool layers that no longer sting. Breathe in slowly, as if drawing in the steadiness of stone. Breathe out, as if releasing weight into water. Memory can be part of nature, and nature tonight feels safe enough to hold it. In Iceland, intelligence doesn't always look like quick thinking. It looks like balance, like systems that adjust gently, without panic, like the land responding to water and water responding to stone, and life finding small, steady ways to fit into the spaces between. A river meets a bend and slows. Sediment settles. The river changes shape over time, not because it's indecisive, but because it's responsive. A glacier moves and leaves behind meltwater, which becomes streams, which become wetlands, which become small habitats. The landscape doesn't plan in a human way. It simply reacts, and in reacting, it creates stability. This is one of nature's quiet skills: feedback. When something changes, something else adjusts. Wind shapes snowdrifts. Snowdrifts guide meltwater. Meltwater feeds moss. Moss softens soil. Soil supports other plants. Nothing has to command the whole process. No one creature holds a clipboard. The system stays steady because it listens, in its own silent way, to what is happening. It's a calming thought because it means balance doesn't require control. It requires response, soft response, patient response. And there's a tiny bit of humor here too. Humans love to say, "I need to get my life together," as if life is a scattered pile of socks. Nature doesn't get itself together. Nature simply keeps responding. The river doesn't hold a meeting about its direction. The moss doesn't debate its growth strategy. They adjust quietly, like they've accepted that change is just part of the landscape. In geothermal areas, you can see this responsiveness clearly. Warmth rises through the ground, and certain organisms flourish there. Tiny communities adapted to heat and minerals. They don't complain that the ground is too warm. They simply thrive. Nearby, where it's cooler, different life takes root. The land becomes a map of quiet preferences, and each living thing settles where it fits best. Tonight, let this idea soothe your mind. You don't have to force yourself into a perfect shape. You can be responsive instead. If you feel tired, let yourself soften. If you feel restless, let yourself slow. If you feel full of thoughts, let them settle like sediment in calm water. Breathe in and imagine your nervous system listening to your breath, the way nature listens to the weather. Breathe out and feel yourself adjust, tiny, gentle shifts toward comfort. Balance can be quiet, intelligence can be slow, and rest can be a form of wise response, a soft way of letting your whole system come back into harmony, without effort, without urgency, simply by being. In Iceland, adaptation feels like poetry, written in practical materials: fur, feathers, roots, timing. It's not flashy. It's not dramatic. It's simply life learning how to belong. Think of the Arctic fox, wearing a seasonal wardrobe that would make a fashion magazine quietly jealous. thick fur in winter, darker shades in summer, blending into snow or stone, staying warm, staying steady. No complaints, no constant checking of the weather app. The fox just becomes what the season asks for. Think of moss on lava, living low and close to the ground, holding moisture, softening rock over time. Moss doesn't try to be a tree. It doesn't audition for a different role. It thrives by being exactly what it is: soft, patient, and surprisingly effective. If slow and steady ever needed a mascot, moss would accept the job, then politely refuse the spotlight. Think of seabirds along cliffs, returning year after year to nest where land meets ocean. They use what's there: wind currents, ledges, burrows, turning a rugged edge into a home. Their timing aligns with seasons, with food availability, with the gentle rhythm of the sea. It's coordination without anxiety. Adaptation in nature is often just small adjustments repeated over time. A thicker coat, a stronger root system, a habit of returning, a preference for shelter. It's the quiet art of saying, "This is how I fit here." And that can feel comforting for us too, because our lives often ask for adaptation, and we tend to think it must be fast, perfect, and impressive. Nature suggests otherwise. It suggests that adaptation can be gradual. It can be gentle. It can happen without fanfare. There's even a soft bit of humor in how nature adapts. Some creatures look like they're wearing tiny design upgrades, while humans are out here forgetting where we put our keys, even with pockets. The Arctic fox has built-in insulation. We have sweaters that somehow vanish the moment we need them most. Life is funny. Tonight, let adaptation feel like permission. You don't have to stay rigid. You don't have to force your mind into one mode. You can soften. You can shift. You can settle into what this moment asks for. Rest. Breathe in, as if drawing in the steadiness of creatures who know how to belong. Breathe out, as if releasing the pressure to be anything other than tired. Like moss on lava, you can be soft in a hard world. Like a fox in winter, you can wrap yourself in warmth. Like a bird returning, you can come home to stillness. Again and again, until sleep feels natural. In Iceland, seasons feel like slow waves. They arrive, they linger, they ease away, and then, quietly, they return. Not with a dramatic entrance, but with small signs: a shift in light, a change in wind, a different smell in the air. The land responds without rushing. Snow gathers, ice thickens, rivers slow. Then, when warmth returns, water loosens, streams widen, moss brightens, birds appear again. Everything follows patterns that are older than any human calendar, yet more dependable than most of our alarms. It's comforting to remember that patterns do not mean monotony. In nature, returning is not boring. It's stabilizing. It's how ecosystems stay steady. The repetition is gentle, like breathing. In, out, always returning to the same motion, and yet never exactly the same breath. In Iceland's winter, darkness can stretch long, making the world feel hushed and inward. In summer, light can linger late, brightening landscapes for hours. Both are part of the rhythm. Both have their own softness, their own kind of calm. And here's a quiet joke. Humans sometimes complain about the weather changing, while also complaining when it doesn't. Nature simply rotates through its wardrobe like it knows what it's doing. Iceland says, "Here's snow." Later, here's green. Then, here's wind. And it never once apologizes for being consistent. That is confidence. Returning patterns appear everywhere. Tides rise and fall. Glaciers melt and refreeze. Waterfalls continue their steady song. Even the northern lights, when they appear, follow patterns of solar activity, coming and going, like a shy guest who stops by when the mood is right. Tonight, let this idea soften you. You don't need to fix everything in one night. Life is allowed to move in cycles. There are times for effort and times for rest, times for brightness and times for quiet, times for doing and times for simply being. If your mind feels busy, you can remind it. Patterns return, rest returns, calm returns. Even if today felt tangled, sleep is one of nature's most dependable cycles, your own inner season arriving again. Breathe in slowly, like the start of a familiar wave. Breathe out gently, like the wave easing back into the sea. You're allowed to return to stillness. You're allowed to repeat comfort. You're allowed to rest again and again until your body remembers that sleep is not something you chase, but something you return to, like a season that always comes home. Nature often looks independent, but underneath, it behaves like a quiet community. In Iceland, where landscapes can feel wide and solitary, cooperation still hums softly in the background. Small relationships, gentle exchanges, tiny acts of shared survival that never ask for applause. Think of moss again, soft green cushions on lava. Moss holds moisture, traps small particles, and begins to create the earliest hints of soil. Over time, that soil can support grasses and small plants. Those plants hold the ground more firmly. Insects find shelter. Birds find nesting material. The whole ecosystem becomes possible because a humble layer of softness decided to stay. This is cooperation without conversation. Even in geothermal areas where warmth rises from the earth, tiny organisms thrive in hot, mineral-rich water. They form small communities adapted to heat, shaping the micro-world around them. They don't compete dramatically in our sleepy telling. They simply occupy niches, each fitting into a place that suits them, like guests finding their favorite corner of a quiet room. Along coasts, seabirds contribute too. They bring nutrients from the sea onto land through their nesting habits. Plants benefit, insects benefit. The land becomes slightly richer because birds return year after year, following patterns that feel like tradition. And then there are pollinators, small insects visiting flowers during the warmer months. It's a gentle exchange. Nectar for nourishment, pollen carried along like a sleepy handshake between plants. No paperwork, no meetings, just a quiet thank you, written in the language of blooming. There's a soft humor in how efficient nature's teamwork is. Humans form committees to decide where to place a trash bin. Nature says, moss will start the soil, birds will bring nutrients, insects will spread pollen. And somehow it all works without a single spreadsheet. Honestly, that's either inspiring or slightly embarrassing for us. But we can laugh kindly and move on. Tonight, let cooperation feel like reassurance. You don't have to do everything alone inside your mind. Your body already knows how to support itself. Lungs breathing, heart beating, muscles relaxing when given permission. Systems within you cooperate quietly, the way ecosystems cooperate quietly. Breathe in, and imagine receiving support, like a plant receiving moisture from mossy ground. Breathe out and imagine releasing effort, like a bird settling into a safe nesting place. You are part of a living world that understands gentle teamwork, and as you rest, you can let that world hold you, not with hands, but with patterns, rhythms, and quiet cooperation, until sleep feels like the most natural shared agreement of all. In Iceland, life moves in cycles that feel calm, almost ceremonial. Not the kind of ceremony with speeches and bright lights, more like a quiet ritual the land repeats without needing to name it. Snow gathers, ice holds, water loosens, plants return, birds arrive, then drift away again. Everything seems to understand that change can be soft, and endings can be part of belonging. A glacier releases meltwater, and that water becomes a river. The river becomes a waterfall, and the waterfall becomes mist. The mist becomes air, and the air becomes cloud. Somewhere later, water returns again as rain or snow, settling back into the landscape. It's one long, gentle loop. No panic, no sense of loss, only movement from one form into the next. Even lava fields hold this feeling. Lava cools and becomes rock. Rock breaks down into smaller pieces. Moss settles, soil forms slowly, small plants follow. Over time, what once looked harsh becomes softer, greener, quieter. The ending of molten heat becomes the beginning of a living surface. The land doesn't treat change as a mistake. It treats it as a natural step. There's a comfort in this, especially for a mind that sometimes holds on tightly. Nature suggests that letting go doesn't always feel like falling. Sometimes it feels like easing from one shape into another, like water becoming mist, like mist becoming cloud. And there's a small, gentle humor here too. Humans often act surprised that things change. We treat it like an unexpected plot twist, even though it's the oldest story on Earth. Nature, meanwhile, nods quietly and says, "Yes, this again." It's very calm about the whole thing. Tonight, let that calm become yours. If the day held moments you'd like to set down, imagine placing them into a cycle, not throwing them away, just letting them move onward. A thought can become a breath can become stillness, stillness can become sleep. Breathe in slowly, as if receiving a new beginning. Breathe out gently, as if releasing an old ending. Notice how both are part of the same movement. You do not have to cling to every moment to honor it. You can let moments pass through you like river water, present, then gone, leaving you smoother, lighter. In Iceland's quiet world, the land changes and still remains itself. You can change too, into rest, into softness, without losing anything essential. Let your mind loosen its grip. Let your body settle. And let sleep arrive as a gentle continuation, not an interruption. One more natural cycle, carrying you onward, quietly, into peace. In Iceland, slowness feels normal. It feels like the land is giving you permission to move at a pace that doesn't drain you. A glacier doesn't hurry. Moss doesn't sprint. Even the mountains. Well, mountains have never once been accused of being in a rush. Slowness here isn't laziness, it's steadiness. It's patience made visible. When you imagine a lava field, you're looking at motion that once happened and then settled into stillness. When you imagine a river, You're looking at water that flows continuously, but never tries to finish the journey faster. It simply flows. When you imagine a fjord, you see water held calmly between high land, reflecting the sky without effort. Nature's pace is often the pace of systems that work well. Gentle repetition, small adjustments, long timelines. Things become stable not because they are forced, but because they are allowed to take time. It's a soothing idea for the human mind, which sometimes lives like it's trying to win a race that no one officially announced. We hurry through meals, hurry through conversations, hurry through rest, then wonder why we feel tired. Iceland's landscape seems to whisper, "You can stop doing that." And there's a soft joke in it too. Moss is a master of slowness, and it's wildly successful. It spreads, it holds moisture, it changes landscapes, and it does it all while looking like a plush carpet. Moss is basically proof that you can accomplish a lot while remaining extremely cozy. Tonight, let slowness become your comfort. Let your breathing lengthen. Let your thoughts stretch out and settle. You don't need to force yourself into sleep like it's a task. You can arrive slowly, the way the night arrives, one quiet shade at a time. Breathe in as if you're taking a slow walk across a lava field, noticing textures without judgment. Breathe out as if you're sitting beside a waterfall, letting the steady sound smooth your mind. Feel how your body responds when it's not being pushed. Shoulders soften, jaw loosens. The space behind your eyes grows quiet. Slowness can be a shelter. It can be a soft place where your nervous system finally trusts the moment. And as you rest here, listening, you may feel sleep begin to approach, not with a sudden drop, but with a gentle drift, like a fjord's water smoothing after a small ripple, like steam dissolving into cool air, like the last light fading from a window. Let yourself go slowly. Let the night carry you at nature's pace. There is nothing you need to hurry toward now. Nature in Iceland teaches a quiet kind of letting go. Not the dramatic kind that feels like losing something, but the gentle kind that feels like releasing your shoulders after holding them up all day. A river does this constantly. It doesn't cling to a rock it passed an hour ago. It doesn't look back and wonder if it should have taken a different route. It simply moves forward, and in moving forward, it becomes smoother, less tense, more itself. A glacier too holds and releases. It gathers snow, compresses it into ice, then slowly gives parts of itself back to the world as meltwater. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is clung to forever. The glacier doesn't panic about change. It treats change like breathing. Hold, release. Hold, release. Even the black sand beaches do this. Footprints appear, and then waves arrive and soften them away. The beach doesn't take it personally. It doesn't say, "I worked so hard on that smooth surface." It simply returns to calm again and again. And perhaps this is what home means in the natural world. Returning to a steady state, returning to rhythm, returning to the quiet self underneath all the temporary marks. There's a soft humor here too, because humans often treat letting go like a complicated skill that requires a manual. Nature lets go constantly, like it's the simplest thing in the world. If the ocean wrote a self-help book, it would be one page long. Arrive, leave, repeat. and somehow it would still be accurate. Tonight, you don't have to practice letting go perfectly. You can let it happen in small ways. Let your hands unclench. Let your tongue rest in your mouth instead of pressing. Let your brow soften. These tiny releases are the body's way of coming home. Breathe in slowly, as if drawing in the feeling of a warm window in a dark village. Breathe out gently, as if letting the day's noise drift away like mist near a hot spring. Imagine it thinning out until it becomes part of the night air, harmless and light. If a thought returns, an unfinished loop, a small worry, let it pass like a cloud across the moon. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to hold it. You can watch it drift, and then let the sky become clear again. Home tonight is not a place you travel to. It is a softness you return to, a rhythm you recognize, a quiet inside you that has been waiting patiently, like a fjord's water at night, still, reflective, calm. And as you return to that quiet, sleep can arrive naturally. Like a familiar path you don't need to think about anymore. Now, as the night deepens and the landscape grows quieter, we let our gentle question return, softly, like a familiar scent carried on cool air. What does a landscape do when no one is watching? We've wandered through Iceland's calm contrasts, water and stone, ice and warmth, wide skies and sheltered places. And all along, the land has answered in its own quiet language, not with words, but with rhythm. It continues, not with urgency, not with noise, just with steady being. The waterfall keeps falling, not to impress, but to remain itself. The river keeps flowing, not to arrive, but to move. The moss keeps spreading, not for applause, but because softness belongs there. The glacier shifts with a patience that feels almost like wisdom, slow enough to feel like stillness, and still enough to feel like peace. Maybe when no one is watching, the landscape becomes even more honest. It doesn't perform. It doesn't hold tension in its shoulders, because it doesn't have shoulders. Lucky land. It simply exists in a way that feels quietly complete. And that idea can be a comfort for us, because sometimes we too need moments where we are not watched, not measured, not evaluated, not required to be anything more than present. Moments where the mind doesn't have to do and the body doesn't have to prove. Moments where we can simply settle. If you listen closely, you can imagine the sounds of Iceland at this hour. Wind moving across open ground, water whispering along a dark channel, distant surf breathing against the shore. The world sounds like it is preparing for rest. Even the sky feels quieter, holding its stars with gentle steadiness. There's room here for a small smile too. If landscapes had feelings about being observed, Iceland might politely say, "Oh, you're here? Lovely. Just don't expect me to change." And then it would continue doing exactly what it was doing, calmly, as if that's the greatest gift it can offer. Tonight, you can do the same. Let your breathing become your landscape. Slow, steady, unbothered. Inhale like warmth rising from the earth. Exhale like steam dissolving into cool air. Let your thoughts come and go like clouds across the moon, noticed, then released. And if the question lingers, let it linger gently. You don't need an answer. You can simply rest beside it. What does a landscape do when no one is watching? Perhaps it rests in its own rhythm. perhaps it becomes quietly whole. And perhaps, as you drift closer to sleep, you can become the same, unwatched, unhurried, and softly enough yourself. Now, as the night deepens and the landscape grows quieter, we let our gentle question return, softly, like a familiar scent carried on cool air. What does a landscape do when no one is watching? We've wandered through Iceland's calm contrasts, water and stone, ice and warmth, wide skies and sheltered places. And all along, the land has answered in its own quiet language, not with words, but with rhythm. It continues, not with urgency, not with noise, just with steady being. The waterfall keeps falling, not to impress, but to remain itself. The river keeps flowing, not to arrive, but to move. The moss keeps spreading, not for applause, but because softness belongs there. The glacier shifts with a patience that feels almost like wisdom, slow enough to feel like stillness, and still enough to feel like peace. Maybe when no one is watching, the landscape becomes even more honest. It doesn't perform. It doesn't hold tension in its shoulders because it doesn't have shoulders. Lucky land. It simply exists in a way that feels quietly complete. And that idea can be a comfort for us, because sometimes we too need moments where we are not watched, not measured, not evaluated, not required to be anything more than present. Moments where the mind doesn't have to do and the body doesn't have to prove. Moments where we can simply settle. If you listen closely, you can imagine the sounds of Iceland at this hour. Wind moving across open ground, water whispering along a dark channel, distant surf breathing against the shore. The world sounds like it is preparing for rest. Even the sky feels quieter, holding its stars with gentle steadiness. There's room here for a small smile, too. If landscapes had feelings about being observed, Iceland might politely say, "Oh, you're here? Lovely. Just don't expect me to change." And then it would continue doing exactly what it was doing, calmly, as if that's the greatest gift it can offer. Tonight, you can do the same. Let your breathing become your landscape. Slow, steady, unbothered. Inhale like warmth rising from the earth. Exhale like steam dissolving into cool air. Let your thoughts come and go like clouds across the moon. Noticed, then released. And if the question lingers, let it linger gently. You don't need an answer. You can simply rest beside it. What does a landscape do when no one is watching? Perhaps it rests in its own rhythm. Perhaps it becomes quietly whole. And perhaps, as you drift closer to sleep, you can become the same, unwatched, unhurried, and softly enough yourself. Now we return to one of Iceland's softest truths. Opposites can live side by side. Cold air over warm ground, ice above hidden heat, dark lava fields wrapped in green moss, a landscape of fire and ice that somehow feels peaceful, like two different moods sitting together without needing to argue. As the night settles, imagine walking slowly across a quiet geothermal plain. The ground is dark and steady, and in places, steam rises, thin, pale ribbons that curl upward and disappear into the air. The warmth is gentle, not overwhelming. It feels like the earth is keeping a small lamp on for comfort. Nearby, you might imagine a glacier resting in the distance, pale and still. The cold presence of it does not cancel the warmth. The warmth does not disturb the cold. They coexist, each holding its own space. This is the kind of balance that feels especially soothing before sleep, because so often we think we must fix our inner contradictions. We think we must become perfectly one thing, perfectly calm, perfectly positive, perfectly settled. But Iceland suggests something kinder. You can hold more than one feeling at once and still be steady. You can be tired and still be safe. You can feel coolness in the air and warmth in your chest. You can have thoughts and still drift toward quiet. And if we allow a tiny sleepy joke, the earth has mastered hot and cold better than any shower knob ever has. One moment you're freezing, the next you're boiling, except Iceland does it elegantly, like, here's a hot spring beside a cold wind. Enjoy. Nature has better temperature management than most bathrooms, truly. Tonight, let your body settle into its own calm mixture. Feel the weight of yourself on your bed or chair. Feel the temperature around you. Notice any warmth you already have under blankets, in your breath, in the steady rhythm of your heartbeat. Breathe in gently, like drawing warmth up from the ground. Breathe out slowly, like releasing steam into the night air. Let your thoughts thin out. Let your awareness become softer, less defined, like fog at the edge of a field. Iceland's landscape doesn't demand that everything match. It allows contrast to be part of beauty. You can do the same. You don't need to be perfectly anything right now. You only need to be here, breathing, resting, letting the night hold both your warmth and your coolness, until sleep arrives like a quiet agreement. We are close to the soft edge now, where wakefulness begins to loosen. The landscape feels farther away, not because it disappears, but because it settles into you, like a story becoming part of the body, rather than something held in the mind. Imagine Iceland in a single gentle sweep. Black sand under moonlight, a waterfall's steady hush, moss on lava like a green blanket, a fjord reflecting the sky, steam rising from warm ground. All of it existing without effort. All of it continuing even if you fall asleep mid-thought. Especially if you fall asleep mid-thought. The night grows slower. The sounds grow fewer. Your breathing becomes a tide, arriving, easing away. And our question from earlier remains. But now it feels less like a question and more like a lullaby. What does a landscape do when no one is watching? Perhaps it simply becomes quiet enough to be itself. This is what we practice now. Not trying, not pushing, simply allowing. Allowing the shoulders to drop, allowing the jaw to soften, allowing the tongue to rest, allowing the eyes to become heavy behind the eyelids. If a thought appears, let it come like a bird passing over a fjord, seen for a moment, then gone. If a memory appears, let it be like a footprint on black sand, present, then softened away by the next slow wave. There's barely room for humor now, but if it arrives, let it be featherlight. Even the stones seem relaxed. They've had practice, thousands of years of practice, overachievers really. Now imagine the wind easing across the land, not rushing, not insisting, just moving because movement is natural. Imagine water smoothing itself into stillness. Imagine the sky holding its dark, wide quiet without trying to fill it. Let your mind become like that sky, wide enough that thoughts feel small. Let your body become like the land, steady, supported, safe. Breathe in, breathe out, in, out. Each exhale loosens you a little more, like a knot untying itself without being pulled. Each inhale arrives gently, like warmth from the earth. You don't need to follow the story now. The story will follow you, softly, into sleep. You can drift away from the words, away from the images, away from the day. All that remains is rhythm, breath, stillness, and the quiet wild holding you the way Iceland holds its own, calm, patiently, gently, without asking anything of you at all. Now the world becomes simpler, not smaller, just softer, like snow falling without sound, layer after layer, until sharp edges disappear and everything looks kinder. Imagine Iceland under this kind of quiet. The lava fields lie dark beneath a thin veil of frost. The moss holds its gentle green as if it's keeping warmth tucked close. Water in the fjords smooths itself, turning reflective, unbothered. Even the wind, which has so much open space to roam, chooses a quieter voice, as if it too has decided to rest. You don't need to keep traveling through the landscape now. You can let the landscape come to you in small, peaceful pieces. A distant waterfall's hush, steady and low. A curl of steam rising from the earth, thinning as it meets the sky. A black sand shore where the ocean arrives in slow breaths, then retreats again, leaving the world freshly smoothed. In this final part of the journey, we reduce the weight of facts. We don't need them anymore. Facts are daytime tools. Nighttime is for feeling and rhythm, for letting the mind become less busy and more spacious. So we return to the simplest motifs: water, wind, stone, and breath. Water, always moving, always calm enough to continue. Wind, passing through, never holding on. Stone, steady, supportive, patient. Breath, the quiet bridge between your body and sleep. If your mind offers one last thought, let it be small, like a snowflake landing on your sleeve. Notice it, then let it melt. If your body holds one last tension, let it loosen slowly, like a hand relaxing around nothing. There is no need to hurry. You are already arriving. And if a tiny, sleepy smile appears, it can stay. Even the mountains seem settled. They don't do much at night. They just mountain. It's an admirable hobby. Simple, consistent, excellent posture. Now, bring attention to your breathing again. Inhale gently through the nose if you can, feeling the coolness of air. Exhale slowly, as if you're releasing warmth into the room. Let the exhale be slightly longer than the inhale, not forced, just extended the way a sigh extends when your body knows it's safe. In and out, in and out. With each breath, imagine the night settling more fully. The landscape grows quieter. The sounds grow softer. Your thoughts thin out, like mist dissolving into air. And somewhere in the quiet, sleep begins to feel less like something you reach for, and more like something that reaches you, like snow reaching the ground, gently, inevitably, without effort. Picture a geothermal field in the deep night. The sky is dark and wide. The ground is still. And from certain places, small cracks, warm pools, steam rises in pale ribbons, drifting upward as if it's trying not to wake anyone. The steam doesn't rush. It curls. It lifts. It fades. It looks like the earth is breathing very slowly, letting warmth leave its body in a calm, unhurried way. The air around it stays cool, so the contrast feels gentle. Coolness on the outside, warmth within. If you've ever held a warm cup in a cool room, you know this feeling. The warmth doesn't need to shout. It simply exists, and that is enough. Now let this image become a lullaby for your nervous system. Imagine your body as the warm cup. Imagine your thoughts as steam, rising softly, then disappearing. You don't have to stop thoughts by force. You can let them evaporate naturally, one by one, until there is mostly clear air inside your mind. In the distance, perhaps you still hear water, soft, constant. A waterfall far away, not loud, just present. Or a river moving gently in the dark. The sound becomes background, like a steady hush that tells the body it can let go. Tonight, we lean into repetition, not as a trick, but as comfort. Repetition is what nature uses to create calm. Waves arriving again and again, wind passing again and again, breath returning again and again. So we let ourselves repeat too. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. If a thought appears, something from the day, a small plan, a small worry, imagine placing it into the steam. Let it rise, let it drift, let it thin, let it disappear. The night is excellent at dissolving things gently, and if a tiny, sleepy humor slips in, let it be almost silent. Steam is basically the Earth's way of saying, I'm fine, just letting off a little stress. Relatable. Honestly, we should all take notes, quietly of course, and not on anything with a bright screen. Now, feel your body supported by the bed, by the chair, by the floor beneath you. Feel the steady gravity holding you in place, like the land holding its own weight without complaint. Let your jaw loosen. Let your shoulders sink. Let your hands rest. Let your breath continue its slow, steady rhythm. The steam rises. The night receives it. And you can be received too, into silence, into softness, into the calm warmth of sleep. Somewhere beyond the cliffs and the black sand, the Icelandic Ocean continues its steady work, arriving, pausing, and easing away. It's like the sea is counting softly, not with numbers, but with waves. In the dark, the water is mostly sound. A hush as a wave leans in, a gentle shh as it spreads, a quiet retreat as it slides back, smoothing the shore as if it's tidying up the day. This is one of the most comforting things about water. It repeats without pressure. It never says, I should be doing this faster. It simply keeps a rhythm, and the rhythm becomes a place the mind can rest. Now let your breathing match the ocean's pace. Inhale, like a wave arriving. Exhale, like a wave easing away. Inhale. Exhale. If you notice your thoughts trying to talk over the ocean, you don't need to argue with them. Just let the sound of waves become the louder softness. Thoughts will quiet when they realize they aren't required. Imagine the black sand beach again, dark, smooth, gently textured. Imagine footprints fading as water passes over them. The beach doesn't mourn the footprints. It doesn't cling. It returns to calm, again and again. You can do the same. Let the mind's footprints soften. Let the day's impressions blur. Let the sharpness of any worry fade into a wider quiet. The ocean continues. Arrive, retreat. Arrive, retreat. There is no finish line. There is only rhythm, and rhythm is enough. Even the rocks along the shore feel calm in this story. They sit there, letting water touch them, letting water leave without needing to react. If stones had emotions, they'd probably be very good at boundaries. Yes, you may splash me. No, you may not move me. Honestly wise stones. Now, feel your eyelids heavy. Feel your face relaxed. Feel the muscles around your mouth soften, as if they've remembered they don't need to hold any expression. Breathe in slowly. Breathe out slowly. The ocean counts softly, and your breath counts with it. And somewhere between one wave and the next, sleep begins to arrive, not as a sudden drop, but as a gradual sinking into comfort, like lying back into warm fabric, like letting the night fold around you. Stay with the sound, stay with the rhythm, arrive, retreat, and drift. In Icelandic villages, the night sometimes holds a few warm windows, small rectangles of glow against the dark. But even those lights begin to feel quieter now, as if the whole world is lowering its voice. Imagine one window in the distance, honey-colored and steady. It doesn't flicker, it simply glows, warm and calm, like reassurance you don't have to earn. Around it, the night remains wide and gentle. The wind passes softly. The land stays still. The sky keeps its dark shelter overhead. This is the feeling we keep now, a small warmth in a wide quiet. You don't need to think about the landscape anymore. You don't need to follow any images. You can let them blur and fade, the way lights blur softly when your eyes are half asleep. If a thought comes, let it come like a moth near that window, drifting close, then drifting away again. Nothing needs to be decided tonight. The mind can stop trying to complete every unfinished loop. Breathe in and imagine warmth spreading gently through your chest. Breathe out and imagine the day dimming like a lamp turning lower. In, out, in, out. Let the rhythm be steady. Let the pauses between breaths feel safe. Those pauses are quiet spaces where sleep can enter, and if there's room for the smallest lullaby humor, the village lights have one job: glow softly, and they do it beautifully. No multitasking, no overthinking, just warm light. If we could all be that simple at bedtime, the world would be very well rested. Now, notice your body again, the weight of your head, the weight of your shoulders, the weight of your hands. Let everything feel supported. Let gravity be kind, pulling you down into comfort rather than into effort. The night continues, patient and steady. The landscape continues, even if you don't watch it. The world does not require your attention right now, so you can release it. Release the need to listen closely. Release the need to stay awake. Release the need to hold the story. Let your mind become a soft blur. Let your breathing become a slow tide. Let the last light in your awareness become a whisper, then a hush, then almost nothing. And in that almost nothing, sleep feels near, quiet, familiar, and gentle, like coming home to a room where everything has already been softened for you. Now we are at the quiet end, where words are lighter than air and the night holds most of the meaning. Imagine Iceland one last time, not as a list of places, but as a single calm feeling. A wide dark sky, a slow river, a waterfall's hush, steam rising, black sand, moss, still water in a fjord reflecting the stars, everything existing at its own pace with no need to explain itself. Your breath is the only rhythm you need now. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. If your thoughts appear, let them be soft shapes, fading at the edges. Let them drift like aurora light, pretty, slow, and not something you have to hold on to. Let them pass through. Feel how your body has been working for you all day, quietly, without asking for praise. The heart kept its steady beat. The lungs kept their gentle motion. The muscles held you up, then began to let go when the night arrived. You can offer them rest now, like placing a blanket over a hard-working friend. The world outside continues its calm routines too. Water moves where it moves. Wind passes where it passes. Stone stays steady. And even in a land of fire and ice, the overall feeling becomes softness, like the earth is reminding you that contrasts can still be peaceful. If a final smile arrives, let it. Even the stones seem relaxed. They've had practice. Now let the images fade further. Let the landscape become a background hush. Let the words become less important than the pauses between them. Breathe in and feel the coolness of air. Breathe out and feel warmth leaving your body slowly, like steam dissolving into night. In, out. The story does not need an ending in the usual way. It simply quiets, the way the ocean quiets between waves, the way wind quiets when it finds a sheltered place, the way a room quiets after the last light goes low. And now, we close with the final lines, unchanged, simple, steady, and soft. Everything flows through the wild. Sleep in that motion. Everything flows through the wild. Sleep in that motion. Everything flows through the wild. Sleep in that motion.